The future is emerging inside the economic rise of the Caucasus and Central Asia.
And I think that we have two best speakers to talk about the subject, and it's my great pleasure to welcome on stage Giorgi Bakradze, advisor to the board of directors at Procredit Bank, and Nika kapanadze, ambassador of Founder Institute in Georgia. Thank you.
All right,
very
how about a
much,
big
guys.
hand, everybody?
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Once again, good evening. I'm very happy to be here today and sharing the stage with Giorgi, distinguished economist, and I'm very proud to say my former lecturer from ISET. I remember our deep economic conversations back in 2017 when US-China tensions were just brewing up, but it was already evident that global tensions were going to rise and rise. But we can fast forward to today, we see ever-escalating conflicts and tensions, but at the same moment we see fascinating development in Central Asia and Caucasus region. Numbers tell us a very compelling picture. The IMF's recent projections indicate that CCA region has seen 4.3% growth in 2024 and is projected to grow by 4.5% in 2025, which is often outpacing global averages. However, I want to say that we must approach this with cautious optimism, acknowledging the inherent geopolitical dependencies and high uncertainties that continually shape the region's trajectory. Most importantly, for some economists within the region, this significant momentum has come as a shock and positive shock and windfalls from external events, most important of which was, of course, Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. All of this raises questions for sustainability. So with all this in mind, I want to move to you and open our chat by asking about what key internal capacities and strategic policy choices have enabled this adaptability of the region, and how can these countries ensure long-term sustainable growth going forward?
Thank you, Nika. I must say it's always gratifying to see one's former student succeeding, and I'm very happy and proud. As for the question and indeed challenges that you have mentioned, indeed, when Russia started the war in Ukraine, everybody was more or less concerned about how this would play for Georgia in particular. And lots of migrants from Russia, from Ukraine, from Belarus came in Georgia. And quite a large number of them stayed, and they are mostly working in IT sector, and it shows in numbers. So the growth in Georgia in particular was, one could say, spectacular in the last 3 years. And if 2022 was the post-pandemic period, which explains the high growth, then the next 2 years, were unexpected. But as you said, this is the result of the war, and migrants brought, not only in Georgia but everywhere where they settled, brought their expertise with them. The productivity has increased. The export of services has dramatically increased from Georgia. So if you look at our trade balance in goods is always negative and very negative, but in services we are going to really strong. And if before it was only tourism, and it's still the main service we export, the IT now, the ICT export is growing, and it's forecast to grow. So that's important thing. That's important. So then overall in the region there is a diversification attempt. There are diversification attempts. Countries try to diversify their trade and transport routes, which might increase even further the diversification given the trade policies of President Trump. So we could expect the diversion of trade through Georgia because, we are one of the lucky countries who have relatively low tariffs. So it is possible as well. But in order to make it not one-time jump and to actually keep this momentum and move it forward, well, we need certain changes. The region needs certain changes to ensure that this growth is actually growth of potential GDP rather than just one-time thing. So we need better infrastructure, we need better support. Now, in Georgia, we have this Georgia's Innovation and Technology Agency, which is responsible for innovation and technologies. And I'm also proud to say that one of my students is responsible for innovation part there. So it is an important thing, and I think it should be strengthened. The accent on development and innovation is a very important thing for long-run growth. Human capital and digitalization is very important. We need to ensure that more and more that the economy becomes more and more digitalized. Okay? And while it is more or less so in urban areas, we need more digitalization, essentially better internet and better computerization in rural areas as well. So this is an important thing. International partnerships are usually very important. Now, given certain problems today, this is under somewhat risk, but we still need this. And then we need the industrial development as well. So not only digital, but also physical infrastructure is important. So one of the steps that Georgia has taken is this road, which will finally come to end soon from Tbilisi to Poti, which is essential for fast transit of goods. And it is really fast already, and when it will be finished, it will dramatically decrease the time and increase the turnover. We also can become an export-oriented country. As I said, export of services is booming, and we actually should promote and support this direction. Okay, because export-oriented growth is a thing. We know that's how East Asian countries grew, for example, several decades ago when they started from really, really low levels of development. And well, we can take note from their, take a leaf from their books. So infrastructure investment, sustainable and inclusive growth. I feel like in a movie, you know, with a dramatic music and something's gonna happen. Anyway, so I think that's what we can and should do and take into account. And if we do, then this growth of 23, 24, and 25 will not be just one-off thing. It will be, well, our future vector.
Thank you. Thank you so for these points. I would agree completely on innovation. I'm also glad you mentioned the transit role of the region that it currently has and is rising already. But to focus on that topic for the next question, I would like to outline the importance of this function as a transit function itself, but also as a value-added, so the importance of adding more value along the corridor, not to be just passing. This is one thing. And also how this function is directly dependent on the geopolitical landscape. And as Georgia currently, unfortunately, risks isolation from the West due to its government's actions. And also we've seen the ongoing conflicts in the region. How all this situation affects that function, and in more long term, how can we transform from the transit to more value-added and the part of the supply chain?
Absolutely. I think this is our main geo-economical advantage. Long ago, when at ISET we have written the competitiveness report, and essentially our main emphasis was on the role of Georgia as a hub. Now the thing is, if we think of this transit route, the Trans-Caspian essentially transit route, we cannot do it alone. This is something which needs coordination with Central Asian countries, with Azerbaijan, with Armenia, and Georgia, obviously. But it is a very, very, very potentially very lucrative thing. Okay, in particular because now, due to geopolitical situation in the world, we can actually not only become one of the routes, but compete for being the main route. So I think this is something that Georgia should take into account. And again, you mentioned the problems of our government with the West, and this is a problem, and to be honest, I don't know what can be done about this. But in any case, it will be a significant achievement if it works. As for value added, well, in some sense, the existence of transit corridor is already value added because we are adding essentially opportunity cost of time. So that's important. But we also can think of diversification of supply chains, which could go through the region. We can think about the excess of resources. Now, for example, a very important thing today, given technological development, is the rare earth metals. And as far as I know, Central Asia has vast resources of rare earth metals, which are yet untapped, you could say. So if such a corridor exists, it would create an extra value added in this respect. Another thing it could be the strategic energy hub because of resources of Azerbaijan and Central Asian countries, which are again huge. There's lots of things to tap in, and I think there are challenges. Obviously, there are challenges, as you mentioned, within, but also outside. Our northern neighbor will not necessarily look favorably upon this, and Russia, we know, can interfere and obstruct plans like this. So we have to take this into account. Also, on one thing, being a good geoeconomical location means that there are lots of forces who would try to use it. So that's another thing which we must take into account. And another thing kind of goes back to what I mentioned before. We need better infrastructure for that. We need to build more. We need, for example, something which I think is essential for our trade at all the hub is a deep sea port, which again has been stalled due to politics again. So that's another thing that's important. So, but overall, I think it's a very good idea, and I have been saying this every time when I was asked about potential for Georgia, what Georgia can do, how Georgia can place itself on the map. And I think that's how.
So lots of opportunities, but we need to work hard.
We need to
all
work
of us to achieve those. And to end with another really important issue and also an opportunity in itself is the intersection of human capital and emerging technologies, especially AI. How do you think the development of these emerging technologies affects the region? And also, what can be done to strengthen the human capital in the region and avoid the brain drain, which is currently an ongoing issue here?
Okay, so I think second part is much more difficult, but the first part, we are living in a wonderful time. I always have been the techno-optimist, so I don't really believe that AI will create mass unemployment as people think. I think it will create more opportunities, as it always had been so. The people lost their jobs in textile when automation came in during the Industrial Revolution. People lost their jobs when transport revolution came in. But still, the unemployment itself did not increase as people found new jobs. So I think when we're talking about human capital, there are at least two directions we should think about. First of all is introducing AI and programming at a high school level. Because AI is just an instrument, and even generative AI will be just an instrument. You need people who can work with this instrument. So you need the digital literacy, the programming literacy, if you will, to be instilled and installed, pardon the pun, in people from the very young age. And this is doable. This is doable with the help of AI itself. But I think that's a very important thing, just like Googling is a skill which, for example, people before my generation, so really old ones, did not master well. I think AI is the same. And writing the prompt for AI is not a simple task, but you have to know how to talk with AI. But another important thing is, in order to prevent AI like taking the jobs, leaving people unemployed, we also need the reskilling programs. We need people to acquire new skills. Like past 30, 40 years have been very asking, if you will, in terms of human capital development, because it's every time is something new. Like in the 80s, the personal computer were almost inexistent, at least in Soviet Union and Georgia. In the 90s, they came in and people started to learn this. And then you have your smartphones, and then you have your AI. So every time there is a new instrument, and I think people should learn how to use these instruments well, okay? Because smartphone is a wonderful thing, and people should not be using it just for scrolling the reels, for example, because every computer, every smartphone in our pocket is much, much more powerful than the computer which sent Americans to the moon in 1969. So this is, I think, very important. Teaching young people and elderly people, likewise, to use this would be, I think, the main challenge. And as for opportunities, I mean, the recent news of NVIDIA starting the investment in the AI factory in Armenia, I think it's a very good example. I think it's a lost opportunity for Georgia, sadly. But again, you mentioned essentially why did it happen. But it's a very good opportunity for Armenia. I'm sure it won't be the only one. I'm sure we still have the chance to host large investment projects like this. So as I said, we need investing in infrastructure, both physical and human capital, as you said.
Thank you. I'm also an AI optimist, so fully agreed with you. Just quickly, please, if you can touch up on the brain drain. I know it's more hard topic to discuss, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Well, yeah, brain drain is a much more difficult thing. The developing countries, like countries of the region, they often cannot compete with what the developed countries can offer. So the first thing that everyone would say is, offer competitive salaries, but you cannot offer competitive salaries. So there must be some other incentives. It could be tax incentives like the ones we already have, but it could be better. Obviously, the situation in the country today is not really conducive for the young people staying here, so it's another important thing. But one thing that we can do, given that it's about services, IT services, we actually have an example that you can live in one country and work for another, just like many of the migrants I mentioned do. And they do not work for Russian companies, by the way. If you look at the structure of where this export goes, it mostly goes to the West. So I think if we offer young people good opportunities here, they will not have incentive to leave country. They might work for someone else, but they will still be here. They will be creating our GDP. They will be enhancing our exports. They will be creating demand here, which is I think essential. But that's true. It's very difficult to mitigate brain drain, if you will. It's very important that people stay. So I think that's where the government's role in general is. Create, I don't mean not only Georgia, this time for the region, create environment which is conducive for people to stay.
Thank you, Giorgi, so much for, as always, invaluable insights.
Thank you very much.
Please give a round of applause for Giorgi. Thank you very much.